Boom. All right,
We
that's
are
it.
on stage. Hello,
Good
welcome
morning,
back.
people.
Good morning. We are back. Table for 7 billion. We're happy to be here. We're happy you joined us. I'm James,
I'm Chef Olive.
and this is Chef Olive.
I'm your
I hitchhiked a lot when I was younger, and I think
Yeah,
I'd
me
be
too.
better at this, but
Me too. Actually, that's something that don't exist anymore.
you don't see a lot of hitchhikers out on the
I've
road.
I've I've
Almost
hitchhiked
never.
for many years when I was young. Oh my God, I remember that. Oh,
I
how do you
hitchhiked.
explain? How do you explain to people today? Like you go in a stranger's car, right?
Yeah. I
They,
mean,
they
I
have,
was I was when I was 17, I hitchhiked from Lincoln, Nebraska to
oh
Southern
yeah,
California, and then I hitchhiked up the coast. If if
oh
if
yeah. No,
my
I went everywhere.
21-year-old grandson told me he was going to do that today, I'd be freaking out. It's like, "What? What are you crazy? You're going to get murdered."
Only scary movies, yes.
Right. Right. Right.
Hey, you know the joke, James. This guy comes to he's hitchhiking, right? And he goes into a car, and the hitchhiker is asking the driver, is like, "Aren't you afraid that you may, end up meeting a serial killer?" And the driver is like, "What's the odd of having two serial killers in the same car at the same time?"
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah, no,
didn't
hitchhiking was fun. I traveled, man, everywhere. When I was young, it was okay, right? Everybody could travel.
Yeah, this
Now
was in the
nobody would do that. I
70s.
mean,
I
nobody
hitchhiked
does
all
that,
over
right?
the West, all over the Midwest, and it was great. I mean, you wanted to go somewhere, you just go out to the highway and just stick your thumb out. And I got
I know.
I hitchhiked once in Southern California, and I was going to Arizona to meet my brother, and it was 114 degrees, and I was standing on the side of the road in the desert, and I just thought, man, if I don't get picked up, I'm just going to die here.
Right.
But I lived. I survived.
Obviously.
Um,
All right.
um,
So we wanted to talk about some of the bar, but also how to shop in the market
yeah.
and the Zodiac. Was it Zodiac killer? Oh yeah. I don't know.
I don't know.
There's so many. Yeah, whatever. Who
I
cares?
don't think the Zodiac killer killed hitchhikers, but maybe he did. I don't know. Um, did they ever
So
catch him?
maybe someone killed all the hitchhiker. Like, really.
Maybe that's why you don't see any anymore.
Oh man. So how to shop for food, like how to shop for vegetables, and stuff like that. This is a question that comes back a lot. People have no clue, and we've done some classes at Kitchen Fire where we take a group to the store literally and show them how to shop because it's not difficult. It's just there's a few things, right?
Right,
So
right.
if you go to the farmers market, then you don't have to worry about it, right? Because you have the farmers are here, they can pick for you, or you could ask them, or you could just, pick your food.
And
And
ask them what I'm really interested in these vegetables, but I don't know what to do with them. What should I do? And I'll bet you 9 times out of 10 they'll just say, "Oh, well, this is what I do. What happened the hell out of my knives and thought of you guys. I sharpened the hell out of my knives. I
whoa, be
had to warn
careful,
my
man.
daughter that they are pretty much lasers right now."
That's a good idea. Yeah, warn people, and that's actually true. When I sharpen the knife on they're really, really sharp and honed, I tell people, I'm like, be careful, those are really sharp.
I
So
mean,
when I
you should
go,
always assume that a knife is sharp, but sometimes they're not, especially when you go to somebody else's house and you go to cut something and their knives are like butter knives. They're just completely dull. And
and
as
then you
we've
have to
always
force
said
them,
on this show, dull knives are much more dangerous than sharp knives.
they'll kill you.
Yeah. They
Uh,
slip around on the food because they don't cut through, so they slip around. They're much more likely to slip off the food. And if you do cut yourself, it's going to be a nasty cut. So 12K grit honing compound. I have no hair on my right forearm.
Try the legs, okay? The bigger hair. That's
Is
the
that why
test,
you're
right?
sharpening your knives? Because you're going to shave with them?
You can buy a shaver.
I find my 10-inch chef's knife a little
You
unwieldy to shave with, but
can... The 12 inch is really a hard one.
I mean you can't see because I've got these headphones on, but this ear is completely gone because yeah.
That's the big. That's how I used to shave, right? I've tried. It didn't work very well, but I did
No.
try. I
Have you
did
ever
try.
used a straight razor?
I did that too. It's really hard.
It's
It's
really
really
hard.
hard. It feels kind of freaky a little,
Yeah,
but it's
especially
very,
when you get
very,
down
very
here.
short. Oh yeah. You have to
Barbers
go
use them
around.
all the time and they're good with them, but I've never owned one, so it's never been a
You have to go from down to up. You don't go this way. That's all. You
you
have to
don't.
remember that. Oh, I bet
So
you that.
yeah, so just like any food shopping, if you go to a place where people I'm working on my Chef James costume for Halloween. What would that be, do you suppose? Just a big just a big bald head on top of a t-shirt maybe?
No, just a big head.
Oh, Scott says
I
he'll be on in 4 minutes.
whatever.
We have a
It's fine.
guest today, Scott Baird, who is a bar consultant. We know Scott from
Bye.
early days at Cesar. He was a
Yep.
server first, I think, and then a
Yep.
bartender.
Yep. Which I
And
trained. I
now he's
trained
owned
to be a
his own
bartender.
bar. He consults with other people on their bars. So he's going to join us in a few minutes.
That's great job.
Uh,
So let's talk about the shopping for a little bit. So when you go to the farmers market, you don't have to worry about it. It's pretty easy. Things are pretty much in season, ready to go at the right ripeness, right? So when you
right,
go to the store, that's a little bit different because the store
right,
they'll get whatever they have, right? Once they try to get the ripe first, and then when they're out of that, they're gonna start to pull the unripe food, which is it's okay, right?
right,
But you have to either like when you buy a pear that is super hard, you can't eat it or do anything with that, or like nectarine and stuff like that. The big difference is the pear and the avocado when they're unripe, they will ripen. As
right.
apricot, peaches, they won't. They'll just rot. So this is something that you people are really have to understand. If you buy the peaches that are really hard and you're waiting to them to mature, they won't mature. They'll just soften.
Hmm.
They won't mature. So they're not going to be fantastic. So it's very difficult for the people who sell that food because how do you sell the perfect product, right?
Well,
Anyway,
that's just it. A supermarket, they get food from a central
yeah,
warehouse that food gets shipped all over the country in trucks. So it has to be, they have to pick fruit that can withstand being packed in a box and shipped around and held in storage. And that's why a lot of times apples in a supermarket, especially the
yeah.
non-organic ones, they'll look great, but they'll have no flavor at all. They won't have any sweetness to
Sometime,
them.
right? Sometime, even though apples last a long time, right?
Yeah. They lose their
They are
sweetness. Anything loses its sweetness when it um,
too long, yeah. But for example, apples, onion, carrots, potatoes, they last a long time. They're very slow breather. That's what happens. They slow breathe.
yeah,
So they last a long time. But like stuff like strawberries, blueberries, all these berries, they're very fast breather. They breathe really fast, literally breathe.
yeah,
And they they get very mushy and ripe very quickly, right? So you have to slow down that's happening, and you do that by put them in the fridge. So
right,
the avocado, for example, if they are really hard and you need to eat them tomorrow, you put them in a paper bag. You can put a banana in there or an apple. It will accelerate the process of the
right.
ripening. If you get them the soft already and you don't want them to get too soft, you put them in the fridge, keep them cold, so you slow the ripening, which is good, right?
And if you have fruit that is ripe, that is pretty much ready to eat, and you don't want it to ripen any further, then you don't want to put it in a bowl with your bananas because the
Yeah,
bananas release a gas that will really ripen them quickly, and they'll go
ethylene.
bad.
It's called ethylene.
Right, right.
So there's ethylene producing fruits and vegetables, and there is other vegetable that don't but receive it. It's interesting. Not everybody is the same, right?
Where I grew up in the middle of the country, people used to have, especially on farms, people had what they called a root cellar. And it was a
Yeah,
cellar
right,
dug
yeah,
under the house, and they would store food down there. So they would store apples, potatoes,
right.
all the root vegetables like rutabagas and turnips and all that stuff, because they could store it down there, and it would be cool enough and dry enough that it would that stuff would keep all winter. So they would go down to the root cellar and get food every week to cook.
It's actually it's actually better than the fridge. It's
Oh yeah,
really good because there's air. It's perfect temperature for the vegetables to keep them.
right.
Um,
And it's not too dry. There's a little bit of humidity down there. It's a great place to store wine too. And that's why they built basements in
frozen blueberries,
farmhouses.
yeah.
It
Was it?
wasn't for any other reason except to, store food, because they knew it would stay really cool down there. It would stay The temperature would stay even all year round. So
Stable,
even in
yeah.
the summertime it would be cool down there.
That's why you keep wine in a cellar, right?
Right.
And we were talking about rum, remember? We're talking about rum that was exported in barrels
Mhm.
to colder area so they can age them.
Right.
So a rum that is aged cannot come from the original point because it's too hot. Rum is made in a hot country, and they have to export those barrels, right,
Right.
to Scotland or England or whatever, so they can age them. This is important. So it's the same process. Heat will accelerate the ripening. This is why summer the vegetables are ripening because of the sun and all this stuff, right?
Right, and one of the worst things you can do to wine is have a lot of temperature fluctuation.
Yeah.
So get really cold, then really hot, then really cold
Same
again.
for everything, James. For example,
Yeah.
people ask me for the eggs. Do we keep the eggs in the fridge? So I keep the eggs in the fridge because it's safer and it's easy, right? They last a long time.
Right.
But like you said, the most dangerous for the egg is the change of temperature, not the temperature itself. So if
Right.
it goes from hot to cold to cold to hot, and if you keep doing that, those are going to be damaged. And that's the same for everything, all food,
And that's
because they
why
are
the
alive.
cellars were so great, because the
Right.
temperature was even. That's why, like a lot of the classic cheeses in England or in Europe are still aged in caves, because it's the perfect it's a good temperature, but it's an even temperature, and also you've got the right levels of humidity and airflow and everything. It's just a perfect environment. It's funny because people spend a great deal of money trying to duplicate that in a warehouse.
Yeah. Right.
You have to have air conditioning and humidifiers and all that stuff.
Crazy.
Put it in a cave and it's just so easy.
Yeah.
um
And
yep.
cheese is made from that mold
Right.
that grows in caves. And mushroom is the same. There's a mold in the cave that actually super producing great cheese and great I mean, I lost my track. Anyway, just what I just said.
uh where reminds me of a story wherein some officer died on a sea voyage, and they put him in a barrel of rum to preserve him, but they still drank the rum on the way back. One of the possible sources of being so drunk that you are pickled. Yeah. Why wouldn't they just
Uh,
bury him at sea? Usually, if a sailor dies on a ship, they
yeah,
bury him at sea.
they don't bury him. They throw him in the sea.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, you wrap him in they wrap him in an old sail, and then they would weight him down, and they would just into
Yeah,
the ocean he would go.
because
Not a
that
bad way to
was
go.
there was a lot of superstition in boats, huh?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
oh yeah, lots of superstition. One of them is you could not have any women in the boat. They
Right.
would bring so, but it doesn't matter because some of the captain they brought their wife, to travel, and
Uh-huh.
that would make the sailors very uncomfortable because it was this anyway old whatever stupid, right?
Yeah.
But there was a lot of superstition in boats. There was a few I don't remember, but there was a few, and
No
the
banana.
rum the rum was the part of the food allocation,
Yeah, in the
and it
British
was not
Navy,
just
up until very
yeah
recently, every sailor
right
got a ration of rum every day. That was part of the
right.
deal.
It's cool,
And
huh?
there's still a Navy. Leopold's makes a gin called Navy Strength, which
Oh
has
wow.
is sort of from that old tradition, and it was because they made it, pretty strong. You got one shot of rum every day, so they wanted it strong, of course. Um, and that's why all those uh, a lot of those rum drinks came from like the Caribbean and those places, because they had lots of lime, they had lots
Yep.
of mint, they had lots of sugar, and they had lots of rum, and so they made a variety of drinks out of those things, like the daiquiri, the mojito. In Brazil, they had the caipirinha,
Margarita. So Margarita is
margarita.
American, right? But the idea of putting limes to a drink is, first of all, it's super important. It helps for sanitizing the glass and the drink. It brings a lot of nutrients and vitamins. It helps the liver really well to process the alcohol. So in the end, it's a really good idea to put
Yeah,
citrus, the juice and the twist into an alcohol drink, because it makes that much more, first of all, palatable, but also much healthier for you. So think
right.
about it. Lemon and lime, citrus are really important for your liver. Not orange,
Not orange.
right? Orange is too sweet.
Oh,
Orange
right.
is great. It's just too sweet. I need an
What would
acid.
you do for a proper caipirinha?
So I would take a glass, take a lime. I would, okay,
I cut the lime
break.
into
Yeah,
into eighths. So you cut it in half
exactly.
and then cut each piece into quarters, and I use about
Yeah,
6 of those eighths.
yeah.
I put
So
them
you,
in
you
the
have to muddle
glass.
them. You have to muddle
Yeah.
them.
And I put like 4 sugar cubes, because the Brazilians
Ooh,
I used to know in New York, they told me that in Brazil you make it super sweet. I think it's a
I
little
know, but
too sweet.
it's too sweet. So the way I made it is 1 to 2 teaspoons.
Yeah.
One
And
teaspoon,
I
two
like
teaspoons.
but I like to use sugar instead of simple syrup, because I think it gives
Yeah,
you a little
no,
more
no,
traction to
right.
muddle the everything. And then you muddle all that in the glass. You muddle the lime and the sugar together until it's just really like a little soupy
Yep,
mess. Add the cachaça, which is a Brazilian rum. It's an unaged rum. It's a white rum. And then I give it a stir to make sure it's nicely mixed. And then you just add crushed ice until it's a little mountain over the top. And then don't do anything else to it. Just stick a straw in it, serve it. But don't stir it. You want
yep,
that ice to be sort of perfect. And
yeah.
then people can either suck it up through the straw, or they can mix it themselves if they want
But
to.
you
But
can crush the ice with the machine, right? You have to have crushed
yeah,
ice.
we
You're
had
not.
a we had a crank little
I
machine that we
know.
made
I
crushed
got
ice with
I
that
I
Cesar.
got those. I got those.
Did you?
We were going to go electrical, when we opened Cedar, but that didn't work very well.
Well, the
The
trouble with
it
electric things behind the bar is they're just so noisy, and
and
I don't
also
like
it's
to
it,
turn on
and there's
that
a,
engine behind the bar. And
and there's a cable all of a sudden, and
right,
there's wet stuff, right? Yeah, no, it's
right,
not a
it's
good
not
idea.
safe. It's not
And the
it's not good.
mojito is very similar, except there's mint in there. So when you muddle your lime, you have to muddle your mint with it, and you have mojito, and then
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, of course, in a
And club
mojito,
soda,
we use lime juice,
right? And the club
just the
soda, you
juice, not the actual. And the trouble, most people that I've seen in bars um, when they make mojitos, they muddle it way too long, so the mint just
yeah,
gets completely broken up, so
bitter
it's all in the
and bitter.
glass. Yeah,
Look at
you always want to just muddle enough to just break it a little bit to release the essences. Sorry, you don't distract us. I'm assuming that's Kenny, don't you?
yeah, I know, me too. The name doesn't come out as sucks. It's
So, we have a guest today, but he's
oh
having
man,
Ah, there he
Scott
is.
is
All right, Scott.
Scott is the first time he's using the internet, so you're
Yes.
gonna, he's not very, and
He's
he doesn't
coming
have a
to us.
watch, and he
He's
doesn't
coming
have a
to us
watch
from his
either.
houseboat. It looks like you're on a houseboat. Is that right?
Yeah, this is my comfy little office here, and also my bedroom. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, welcome,
Let me
Scott. This is Scott Baird. Olivier and
Scott.
I know Scott from the early years at Cesar, where you were I think you started as a server, but then you
Yeah,
quickly
so
became a
as a
bartender.
yeah.
did, yeah.
after a good training.
And then you finally you
Okay,
left us when you'd had enough of us.
I need to
I
make
think.
his sound.
Can you make him louder?
Am I not loud enough?
I can
That's
hear you now.
better,
Ooh.
Scott. That's better.
I don't
I
know what
mean,
happened
your
Now
face is
you.
not good.
That's kind of cool though.
I don't know what's going on, guys.
Oh man. Okay, the
Camera on.
sound is good.
So I
You
like a
break.
neon bar, so this is great.
Are you are you calling us from a nightclub?
I wish.
Anyway, the
That's
sound is
some
good.
lighting
So
you have in your bedroom there.
Seriously, I have no idea what's going on here, boys.
That
This is
might be our end. I don't know. Don't you think?
no, it's not.
Oh, we lost him.
But his name is here. Anyway, let's keep going. Don't worry about it.
There
Scott.
he is.
Oh
He's
look!
back.
Oh my God, Scott, I want to go and see you. By the way, in your farm. This is really cool.
I would love it if you came to see me.
Yeah. So you need
You
to
live on
talk
a
closer
farm?
to.
I
Yeah.
do. Oh yeah, I do. I've moved now, so let's go. We'll start at the end, and we'll work back to the beginning. But I now live up in the Anderson Valley in Philo. So we got 25 acres, and we've left the
Wow.
Bay.
That's
Yeah,
so.
was working on it all morning. It's too hot now, so you timed this interview perfectly.
Great.
Yeah, it's great.
Are
Oh
you
man.
growing? Are you growing things, or do you have livestock? What do you do?
I've got now I have about 50 chickens. We had 70, but then a bobcat did its thing.
Ah,
I grew some pot, even though I don't smoke it, because I thought, why not? And then I've got a very large vegetable garden.
nice.
Wow.
Planted a bunch of
Yeah.
orchard trees this year.
Any
So
animals?
just the chickens now and 3 dogs. But we're considering goats,
Like,
but I don't know that I want to deal with pigs just because they're stinky. So
cool. Wow, that's great, man. So can I come and see you, Scotty?
I would
I
love it.
told I told Finn, my son, I told him, I'm like, we're gonna go see my friend. He's like, yeah, can we go?
Yeah, you should absolutely. I
Yeah.
need out again.
Thank,
No, I'd
thank
love
you.
to come up. It's beautiful up
It's
there.
okay, Scott. Don't worry about the image. We as long as we can hear you, it's fine.
Okay. All right. Well,
It'll come
I'll,
back.
I'll speak up. Um,
German Robin, who's that?
Germain Robin is a. They make brandy. They make a really good sort of cognac style brandy.
Yeah,
yes, they
Really good.
Spaceball. There you go. All right. So Scott, we were talking last week about bar and the fun stories about bar and all the stuff that we done when we opened Cesar and stuff. But
Uh-huh.
So
do you have any?
you left Cesar and opened your own bar, isn't that right?
Well, no, I left because Kate Whalen, who we worked together with, was doing some work for Loretta Keller, who had Bizou and then was turning it into Coco 500.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And Thad Vogler of the Slanted Door fame at the time, and now Bar Agricole, was one
Oh
of the
cool.
first.
Yes.
This is when a bar consultant was born. I don't think there was such a thing before this. And he came as the bar consultant to Loretta from Slanted Door, and I was like one of the first hires. I'd not even ever worked in the city, and I learned with that, and then really I learned mostly with Loretta. And luckily, she trusted me to make tasty things, and she let me do what I wanted to do.
Wow,
And
that's crazy.
she informed process because I didn't really have much of a technique, and so she gave me a lot of books, and she would hang out with me in the kitchen, and I would tell her about the things I wanted to do, and then she would guide me into how they would probably taste better and how to think about putting flavors together. And I just got really excited about it. It was my favorite thing. So when I was making those drinks then, at Cesar, it was the program. It was the program, and you didn't really mess with the program. I really wanted to mess with the program. So
Hmm.
I just started making really culinary driven drinks. I was putting together flavors that you would think more in the kitchen. In the beginning, it was like pastry flavors, and then it was savory things, and I just started having a lot of fun. What I didn't realize at the time was that Loretta was a darling of other chefs and the press, and so I didn't know it. I was just Mr. Super Schmoozy kind of arrogant young bar guy,
Yeah.
making friends over the bar, and a lot of those people were writers and chefs, and so I quickly met a lot of people in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. And how long was that? Like 10,
God, that
15 years ago?
no, that would be about 17 years ago.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, I know we're old, buddy. It was about
Gosh.
oh my God, that's crazy. So
17 years.
you started with radio. You became, when did, it was a year after you really wanted to do the bar, remember?
Yeah,
And you were like, chef, I really want to learn the bar. And then we started to train you. I started to train you, and then Bill trained you. And
yep,
you learn really fast though. That's the thing. You know, when we train people at the bar, you never know who's going to end up being good or bad, right?
that's right.
But between
Absolutely.
you and Dylan, who opened also a really cool bar called Prize Fighter,
Yeah,
both were super trainable. You know what I mean? Like it was easy to train because otherwise it takes years unless you really know what you're doing and you want to learn, right?
well, you know, it's funny. Well, he and I have been friends since he was in the 6th grade and I was in the 7th grade.
Oh, that's crazy. That is crazy.
Maybe actually, no, he was in the 5th and I was in the 6th grade, and so we've been best friends since we were children. And so I think
Damn.
part of that training was because we were so competitive with each other to know as much as possible. That's why we learned.
There was another guy. There was another guy that was really cool. Muscle guy. What's his name? Who
Oh.
became a
Alex.
button? Alex.
Oh, Alex. Yeah. He started as
Who
a
became?
busser. He was a busser for a long time.
He was a pain in the butt at the beginning, but then he became really good. Remember that, Alex? Woo.
Yeah,
Remember that progression he did? Amazing.
that's
And it
right.
was a pain, huh?
Yeah,
Well, Scott, I remember when you were there still that you were always messing
Oh,
around behind the bar with flavors and putting cocktails together. Not
yeah,
necessarily for the customers, but when we would do
yeah,
little
yeah.
little staff drinks, you were always back there and saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and you were mixing together things that I remember thinking, "Well, I would never have thought to put those two things together." And you made some very tasty drinks, so I guess that was kind of the beginning of your.
well, that was the beginning. Absolutely. The reason I bartended and didn't cook is because I wanted to meet girls and make money. But
Yeah.
I actually
In
probably
that exact order.
I should have been in the kitchen. I should have. When I was like 17, I asked my mom to go to culinary school, and she said, "No way.
Wow.
You should
Oh
be like a
man.
plumber, like your grandfather, or a welder. Like if you want to pick a trade, don't pick that one. It's really hard. You'll be miserable." But I've always really loved being in the kitchen and
Yeah.
And now it's all shifted. I'm doing way more cooking now than I do bar stuff. But I still do the bar stuff.
Do you do most of the cooking at home?
95%. Yeah.
And how many kids do you have now?
We have
Two or
3
three?
now.
Yeah.
3.
Okay.
Yeah. Violet's 14. She just started high school in the 9th grade. Arlen started the 4th grade, and Jumbo's in on the couch. And he turns 4 on Halloween.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm catching him. I'm catching the terrible
Good
4-year-old
man.
and the
That's so
terrible
crazy.
15-year-old. Yeah.
No, I want to go. I'm gonna come and see you for sure. I'm gonna take my boy on the weekend, and oh yeah, no, he's so excited.
My
I will tell you.
my stepdaughter's named Violet. I just saw her this morning.
You know, if you
So
guys
Scott,
put this out
have
on the
you?
show, but on the 21st of October, on a Friday, I talked to the Anderson Valley Wine Group, or the association, and they asked if I'd do some food. And I said, "Hey, have you guys ever heard of a boucherie?" And they had never heard of a boucherie. So I've convinced them, because I previously in another life cooked about 300 whole pigs for charity. So I'm going to cook 2 whole pigs, 2 big whole pigs,
Nice.
and then
Wow.
make some blood sausage.
When is that?
It'll be October 21st here in the Valley, and it's going to be like a harvest festival for all the wineries. And it's going to be a big fun party. I'm trying to find a mime and a juggler and kind of give it that nice French circusy fun feel. Maybe get a little gypsy jazz band or something.
Wow. October. It's a Friday.
It's a Friday, yeah. But it's a long way out. If you guys could come, it'd be awesome to have you. Anybody who's listening.
I have a class on Friday. My schedule is already done, man. It's crazy. Huh? I have to plan that many months in advance because we're getting so busy. But it's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe I can move that class. Yeah, it's crazy. Huh? So I was
I could
going
come
to
up.
ask
I
you,
could come
Scott.
up and juggle for you. I could be your
Oh,
juggler.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I
Oh
used
my
to
God.
be a pro juggler.
Really?
It was a long time ago, but I can
In the
still do it.
circus? In the
No,
circus?
no. I used to perform in clubs and stuff, like between bands, and
Oh,
get paid
wow.
to get up there and do my thing. It was kind of like also stand-up comedy, but it was very free form. I just talked to the audience while I juggled and make them laugh and throw things at them. And
So I wanted
uh,
to ask you something, Scott.
So, Jim, that
Do you,
sounds like
do,
what it's like to be on the bar with
do,
Olivia.
do you remember? Yeah, you remember Archie? Remember my son Archie, the
Yes, yeah.
older one? Have you ever worked with him, or because I know some of you guys, like Alex, has worked with him. So Archibald is my other son, and
No,
he's a
I have.
bartender.
I think that maybe did he work at Cafe Rouge for a minute?
Archie,
He worked many places. I just don't
Oh,
remember.
he salt, didn't he? Maybe, I don't remember. But no, we didn't get a chance to work together. I would see him out though.
Okay,
I would
okay.
definitely.
Because he worked with a bunch of people from that group, the group that actually owns Cesar now. Anyway, Sea
Okay.
Salt, remember Sea Salt? Remember
Yeah,
all this? You
he
yeah.
never
worked
work at,
with he worked with Alfie at Plum Bar.
yeah,
Archie did.
Alfie, he worked with, and now he works with people he works with Caris, which is one of my chefs, and now the sous chef at Occitan, which is
Okay.
super cool. I haven't been there, but I heard it's really great, so we'll try it.
Yeah, I would really like
Occitan,
to.
the Basque restaurant opened by, what's his name?
Yeah, it's
Anyway.
I wonder if maybe I've asked you this before. If you know Alfie, my stepson Alfie.
I do know Alfie. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, he's up
Oh
in
yeah,
he lives in Petaluma now.
Where's
and
he working?
Penny, that's so funny.
He's running the whole bar beverage program at the Shuckery, which is the restaurant at
Oh,
the
I'm gonna go
Hotel
see him.
Petaluma. It's very good. We went up there
That's
not
right.
too long ago for our anniversary, and we had a blast. It was so good. Really good
We have
food, good
a
drink.
that's the Marshall Store guys, right? Isn't that Shannon? That
I
has the
think
shotgun?
yes.
Yeah, very cool.
And we had rock star status because everybody was so keen on meeting Alfie's mother that people
why?
kept finding excuses to come by our table and say hello and introduce themselves and buy us a drink. And
Why is that?
That's fun.
huh?
Why? Why
Why?
is that? Yeah.
Because it's Alfie's play, and Alfie wasn't there the night we went because that's the week he got COVID, so he had to take the week off. So we went and saw him at his house briefly, but he had set everything up for us. Everybody knew we were coming, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're Alfie's mom. You're Alfie's mom." And I kept saying, "No, I'm not Alfie's mom," but they kept saying it anyway. He's doing well up there. He's really carved a niche for himself up there. So
It's a great spot. I think it's one of those. It has the same feeling that I think back to Cesar, where it's just a great neighborhood, hang
yeah,
out, lots of regulars.
yep.
And that's a really nice thing about being out of the. I guess being in a town like Petaluma, people are really happy when something like that shows up, and they're really
Man, it's so
excited to
pretty
go.
over there.
And there's a
I
lot of
really
people
like
that-
Petaluma. We enjoy going up there. There's a
Yeah.
lot of good food up there. It's a cute little town.
Lots of good food.
One
Yeah.
of my favorite bookstores, Copperfield's. I always go there and spend too
Yep.
much money.
Yep. No, it's a beautiful little town. I think that there's a good amount of San Francisco and East Bay that have moved up the last couple of years too.
So you spent a lot of time consulting with other bars, right? People that would hire you to help them either
Yeah,
to set up their bars or just to come in and fix their bars.
use both.
Both?
It's been both. Yeah, like it's a lot of it has happened on a fire drill basis where they at the end and they're opening, they realize that their person can't handle it or they're not ready and they want something to be better, and then I'll get a call. So it's usually coming in a little later than I'd like, and then
Right.
and then that started to get better, and people would call at the beginning, and so that I'd be able to help design the layout of the bar equipment and
Wow.
the flow of the bar so that it could be done quickly.
Right.
I've always, going back to Cesar, where I learned everything. I've always thought about it as a function first enterprise.
Totally.
Form comes second. If you're all about the fluff and the pretty and and the mixology without having just the
Right.
basic mechanics
No,
to
it's
move
fun.
quickly and cleanly, you
Uh-huh.
can't really have an effective bar. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
bar whiskey.
yeah, you
No, it's
gotta
true, Scott. It's the same for a kitchen. It's the same for a restaurant.
yeah,
When I did consulting for restaurant or whatever, you look at the flow. Of course, it's super important, and that's what people don't look at because and then they put their machines and they're shut everywhere, and then they realize they can't go. There's something that they can't even cross. It's like so
correct.
stupid sometimes. Some of the architects have no clue what they're doing. It's just amazing.
Very true. It's
And
very
also,
true.
when you make a kitchen, and this is something that you have to look at the menu. You can't just build a kitchen without having the menu. That doesn't work like this. And
That's
people
right.
do that. They build the restaurant and then they work on a menu and it's like, no, the grill has to go the other way, right? Because this is how next to the thing or the plancha, whatever. It's like you have to
Right.
understand your menu before you build your kitchen. Same with the bar. You need to know where people are going to go, where the
And
dirty
it's
glass go, where do you get the ice? How do you get your clean glasses? How fast does it take? Where does it go? How many people does it take?
yeah,
Did
it's
you also would you also train the bartenders when you'd go into these places?
yeah,
I
it
mean, I
Hopefully.
was
suppose you had to, right?
yeah. The scope would be to like usually if it was soup to nuts, it would be um, do the work with the architect and the kitchen designer to get the layout in place
Right.
and make sure that it's done properly, and then write the menu, choose the spirits for the back bar that are sensible to go with what the program is, help hire the staffs and do all the interviewing process to figure out if these are the right people, and then train them and try and find somebody who is a lead employee who would be my liaison so I can communicate with them to make sure things are being done right from afar. So I've done a lot of this stuff around the country, and so I've got to be able to just talk to somebody on the phone about it, and then get them going and get them in motion, get them through opening, and then I come back quarterly to check on it usually. And in the early part, it would just be like get them open and that was it. I'd walk away,
Uh-huh.
and it was just like you paid your fee and that was it. Wash your hands with it. And a couple of people used the PR that we had in the press because I was getting a lot of press there for a minute, and they wanted that, but then as soon as we left, they started buying pasteurized lime juice and changing out products for cheaper products.
Wow.
So then I would make it so that it stay on for a couple months after opening to make sure that the integrity is held. And then finally, when I really got smart on a program in San Francisco, rather than take any money at all up front, I didn't take any money. What I did take was a percentage of beverage sales for the next 3 years. And I
Oh,
had
Wow.
interesting.
like a management contract. So I was taking care of it, keeping an eye on the program, making sure everybody was doing the right thing for a long period of time, and then taking a small percentage off the top of the sales. So it was more profitable for me in the long run, but I think it was better for the restaurant as well.
Right.
Great. I mean, everybody wins, right? You make sure that it stays really well, really good. People buy it, other than that thing collapsing and
Yeah,
making no money on the bar. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. So, and then, that was some pretty fun stuff. It is hard to not have a permanent relationship with the place. One of the things that I missed the most about our time together at Cesar was that it was it had a Olivier said it to me a long time ago, and it was wonderful. Like I actually was talking to some kids, and I almost teared up saying it because it really really struck me in my heart. But
Now, what did I say again?
you looked at the room. It was you looked at the room, and you're talking to me, and you're like, if you look at this, you're probably never going to be rich doing this. You probably never are. But look at these people and look at us. Think about what it is we're doing and how we eat and how much enjoyment we get. You're going to have a really rich life doing
Right.
this for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's
And,
true.
and it's very true. It's
You
super
have to
true.
be rich somewhere, right? If it's not money, you have to you have to find
Yeah.
another way.
There's something about
Restaurant
having
is a
a home
you
like
have
a restaurant.
you have to remember. I was talking to someone yesterday about the original. I was talking to a chef. The origin of the restaurant is really restaurant is a place where you can have people come over, but you can't invite them all the time. It's too much money. So you want them to share, right? But you have the place. You made that place comfortable. That's basically what the restaurants are. And then the bar, same. The bar came later. But the restaurant was born literally after the revolution when there was all these chefs, right? James, we talked about that several times.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
these chefs unemployed decide to open restaurant à la carte. So it means you can pick your food instead of just having a soup or stew. And the bar came not too long after that because spirits came, first of all, for the monks, most of it. If it come from the Arabs, then the monks took it over. And then it became medicinal. And people drink regularly. And the thing that's important to realize is, and we talked about it last week, is there was no water to drink. Water was
Uh-huh.
not, you can't drink
Water.
water.
You do not drink
So
water.
you
You
had
drink beer, wine.
you
Yeah.
drink whatever is safe and doesn't kill you, and that's how
Yeah.
people get used to drinking, med, booze, all this stuff. That's
Well, I still drink. I still drink purely for medicinal purposes. That's my story, and I'm going with it.
and I'm sticking with it.
We
Well,
had a
you
guy,
know, you
there's a guy at Cesar. He was the weirdest. I'd never heard this before, and he would say, "I never drink water; it rusts the pipes." And I said, "Wait a minute, we
Unless it's
never."
what?
And he said, "I literally never. I do not drink water. I drink beer. I drink wine. I drink sodas. I don't drink booze. I do not drink water."
wow,
And he
Who
was
is
an old
that?
guy.
huh? Well,
And I bet you it's still
I
alive.
well,
Yeah, it's the same.
back to what you were saying before. I mean, I've been to a lot of bars in my life and a lot of restaurants, and the difference between places that are really fun to go to and places that just aren't this fall short
Yeah, really.
is, I mean, of course, the quality of the food, the quality of the product and everything, but it's the places that are run with the thought in mind that they really want to, how do I put this without sounding too sappy? Where you
Yeah,
really
how?
want to be hospitable. You're running it, you want this to be a hospitable place where people can come and have a good time, feel welcome, have good food and drink, converse with other people, rather than, like you said, some guy just trying to get rich. I'm going to run a bar because I can get rich.
Well, I mean,
You,
it's you, James. Just one thing. You could make a business out of a bar, right? As a good business, so you can pay your rent and have you're not going to get rich, but you need to make enough money so it makes sense, right? You can't just, right?
well, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Any business, you have to make a profit or you're not going to be there.
It's not
But
a hobby. That's right.
right. But they don't
Uh-huh.
call it the hospitality industry for nothing. I mean, the whole point of it is hospitality. It's
Right.
to bring people into your home and entertain them and make them feel comfortable and well fed and good drinks and everything. And yeah, that's one of the things I was always proud about Cesar, is that we all felt that way and we all worked that way.
Yep.
And uh, it's interesting because when I was in my time at Cesar, especially when I've been out on the floor, I mean, every night somebody would ask me if I was the owner. And at first I just thought, they just think I'm the owner because I'm the oldest one here. And they see the gray hair and they figure I must be the boss. But I think but then I realized that it was because I always felt proprietary over the place. I felt
Right.
like I ran it like it was my bar. And, I always felt Bill did the same. And all of our best bartenders and servers felt that way. They ran it. They wanted to do a good job. They ran it like it was theirs. And in a sense, it was ours. It was all of ours. Especially after the three founders weren't really around anymore. I mean, it was our place. And so I think, and the customers definitely picked up on that. And we
Yeah.
had very low turnover, so they could recognize people when they came in. It wasn't like had a different bartender every week. We had tremendously low turnover. It's been
I know.
crazy. Um,
I actually reference that place a lot when I'm outside doing other work, and I reference how it was those first 5 years and what a magical. Not that it wasn't magical after, but in the beginning, in those first 5 to 7 years, the interesting thing was, like, it's not chef driven at all. Maggie was wonderful, but Maggie didn't need to be in the kitchen at night. She was not.
No.
right.
Yeah.
The food came out, the food was good, but it was driven by that that group of personalities that made up the front of the house staff, where you knew if you didn't get Olivier, you got me, or you got Kate, or you got Alexina. And
Oh,
Jose was all,
Kate.
and
Oh
there
my
was
God, I forgot Kate.
Kathleen was, like there was
Kathleen, of course.
so
Yeah.
much strong personality and
Right.
so many people trying to do a good job almost competitively with one another. It had an amazing feel, and it was also such a
Yeah.
great neighborhood experience at the time. Like, it was like a local place. It was great. Like, it had a real heartbeat. And I just was up in Yountville, potentially doing a job in Yountville and looking at this restaurant, and I guess it used to be like that. And some guys came in as consultants and totally snobbed everybody out, and they lost that feeling. They lost that vibe.
Wow. Oh yeah.
But
It was fun.
the restaurant previous was built around this one chef and his personality. He
Yeah.
left
Yeah.
and brought in consultants.
That's yeah.
How do you have that? How do you create that if you
I know.
don't have, uh, Richard and Dennis, and then everybody else behind them? Like, you have to have
Yeah.
some.
Exactly. Right.
You really have to have it. It's so, and you're right. It's like it's both the hospitality and
But exactly, Scott, that's the real point. How do you hire people that will represent your personality if you're not here? Because you
Yeah.
can't be only person there because when you leave that thing collapse, right? So how do
Yeah.
you project that to your staff? So this is a good point, right? When you that's and especially a bar, you need people with personalities. Otherwise, that bar is a dead place.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I think that was one of the things that Richard was good at, and
Yeah,
Olivier, is that they kind of set the tone of the place so that we all followed that.
oh
I mean,
yeah,
it
oh yeah.
wasn't
That
it
was
wasn't a
easy.
snobby, quiet, stuffy bar. It was a place where even the staff was having fun.
But James, how it happens? When we started, everybody was pretty stiff, right? Dennis and because Dennis come from Japanese and David Tennant was very into the food and they were very, not worried, but they wanted to go slow. And I wanted to go hardcore. And I said, no, we need music. We need no flamenco. We need loud. We need something beat. We need to turn those. We need noise. And they were very, very. And Richard was 100%. And that's the thing. He said he went for it, like you said. It went for it, and we all follow. And I was able to do that because Richard led me, though.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like he said, no, you're at the bar, you do whatever. And I put that ambience, and I started, and everybody followed it because of him, though. He
yeah,
led it because everybody else didn't want it. They wanted something quiet. They wanted to serve tea, and I'm like,
I think that's that.
no, 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 no.
We're all looking for that. We all want that. We want to walk into a place and
Right?
we're in a party.
I
And
know, right?
yeah,
you're spending money and you're going to spend it. And it's not going to be cheap. So you might as well feel like you're celebrating that spending and celebrating the people you're with. And, it was an interesting room because you felt people, it made people look attractive. It's a weird way to say it, but you felt sexier when you're at Cesar. And like, there are other restaurants and bars that have that same feeling, and it's a vibe, it's the lighting, it's the energy in the room.
yeah.
It's a wonderful experience. It's hard.
You know,
I've seen it many times. Like, it's hard to find.
that was 1,000 square foot, which is
Yep.
very small. We used to have about 400 people a day. I know I should not say that now, but
No.
we used to have so many people, and it was a huge volume. I mean, you should see how much booze we go through. It's just unbelievable.
How much booze? How
And
much
that,
fried potatoes?
and yeah, the five potato is insane. But James, Scott, we were talking with James about the regular that comes at 5.
Yep.
We have a couple of federal judge. One is retired. There's a electrician. There's a couple of plumber. There's a molecular biologist.
Yep.
What's his name? Cedric.
Yep.
There is a couple of doctors. This is how you make a bar. You mix the most random people, right? And they're all here enjoying the end of the day. I had a friend who was a sociologist in Paris, and the mayor of Paris, so big deal. They asked him to do a study on what would happen if they removed bars. There was a time where big cities were interested in maybe, putting the time less. So the bar were open at 2, they wanted to go 1, maybe midnight to do like more of a dormitory cities. And
Uh-huh.
my friend, who's a sociologist, very famous sociologist, he said basically, if you would remove bars in cities or restaurants, you have a revolution because the bar is the only place you can go when the sun goes down and greet your peer and meet your peers and being around a good sociological, because in the old days that was the fire in the village where we already everybody greets where the light, and
Right.
those bars are super important for society to keep going. Of course there's alcohol, but that's another, but this is super important. To You have to have that, you cannot remove that ever. And that was it. And that was a big study that came out. That was a long study with a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists, and they realized the bar is actually crucial for a city.
Yep, I
Pretty
would.
cool.
You know, it's funny. The last few weeks that we were open on Shattuck, of course, everybody, customers were very sentimental and used to tell us stories about,
All
our
right.
used to bring our kids here. We met here. We, whatever.
Yeah.
And more than one person told me that they said, this place is kind of like Cheers, where you come
Yep.
in and people know your name and you feel at
Totally.
home. And I used to find that a really funny analogy. I mean, I haven't seen Cheers a lot, but I've seen it a few times in
I did.
reruns. And I used to think,
So
the
fun.
thing about Cheers that always made me laugh was, yeah, it was a very homey place and everybody knew your name, but they had like 7 customers. I said I never knew how they stayed open. They had those 7 guys that would come in and drink
No,
beer.
the 7 guys are the most stable, but there's a bunch of people. But you see, even at Cheers,
Because in
there
the
is
early days at Cesar, it was 3 deep at the bar. I mean, you just you would start working, and you didn't stop for like 6 hours, and suddenly you'd
oh yeah,
realize it'd be
non-stop,
midnight. And
non-stop. 11:30. I remember the 11:30 one because we was like, oh my God, it's already that, and we didn't eat, we didn't go to the bathroom. It's like,
No, yeah, that was a bad part of the Cesar, training me to never go to the bathroom.
yeah,
I tell that to
um,
people, and they're like, what? No, I'm like, no, it's insane. The bar is insane. On Friday night, there's no way you go to the bathroom, right?
yeah. Well, and remember when we had a host position always, and there was a host every single night.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I remember I hosted for a couple of years. Richard asked me if I would become a host, and so I did. Hosts made good money in those days, and I was there. I used to work Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I think were my nights, or Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, something. So I remember being there on Tuesday nights, and I would have to be there until the kitchen closed because
Right.
I'd still
It's
be
crazy.
taking names. People would still be waiting for tables at 11 o'clock at night. It was
I
nuts.
would
It was
take
crazy.
orders, food and drink order in the street. I would go outside. There was a line at 11:30. I would take drink order on weekend. The line
And
was
those people weren't even intending to come in. He would just go out and stop people and take their orders. And
mostly homeless.
I don't know how you got paid for that, but
Right.
I managed.
Just walk out and dump the
Yeah,
fries on
no,
their hands. Here's a handful of potatoes, everybody. Enjoy yourselves.
I know, right? It was great. Anyway,
after we reopened for indoor dining, after the year of lockdown, people would come back, and I had more than one people say, "I dreamed about the fried potatoes.
I
I
know.
just we just
Crazy.
we'd sit around and talk about it at night. Oh, if only we could go have a drink and fried potatoes at Cesar." It's poor people. Of course, we were doing takeout all that year, so
Yeah, right, right.
uh, people would come and that was the big seller, man. We
Wow,
sent so many paellas and fried potatoes out
wow.
the door. It was crazy. And we were doing cocktails in mason jars as God
I
intended.
remember because James, I was trying to reopen. I mean, I was still closed, right? I'm next door. I had my studio next door, and I was come to see you every day. And I
Yep.
was not even open. I was just trying to reopen. And you guys opened way before me.
Yeah.
I
It was
opened like
funny too
months.
because we had those little mason jars that we sold the cocktails in, and it was a great business, but then we couldn't get them anymore because literally everyone in
Oh
the
yeah,
world was selling drinks in those jars. So I would
yeah.
go to I walked over
Right.
to the Ace Hardware near where I live one day. I was doing something and I saw they had
Oh,
a couple cases of those jars. So I got out, I finished my business. I went outside and I called Cameron and I said, "Yeah, this Ace over here, they have a couple of cases." He said, "Oh, great, I'll stop by and pick them up." By the time he got there, they were gone because
no
every
way.
restaurant in the Bay Area was using those jars. So if you saw, and I realized then that if you saw them, you had to buy them
Yeah,
because
exactly. Oh my God.
That's yeah.
Scott, what was
Not,
the big what was the biggest problem that bars had? If you came into a bar that was already open, that had been running for a while, and they needed your help, what did you find was what was the biggest issue? I mean, or was there no one particular issue? Like the biggest
um,
mistakes they made? Consistency.
I think it
Uh,
was. Yeah, it's like I get all kind of. I can almost boil it all down to cleaning,
ah,
Wow.
right? Not taking pride in the job, and that's evident by how clean the situation is and how clean the bar is. And so, having a really good system for cleaning and systematically cleaning the bar and keeping it clean usually then creates a thought process that you then need to have systems about everything because, usually, and I would come in and there just would not be any systems, and so drinks were being the recipes would be wonky or people would just kind of make them their own way and
right,
there's no consistency to the thing. And part of it for me is if the bar is clean as a starting point and everybody takes a lot of pride in it being clean, then they'll sort of police each other and police themselves. I have this
Right.
trick that I do that they really hate. I started doing it, I guess, at Romolo, and then I did it at Trick Dog. But I would come in the morning to do orders and do my work, and I would walk around the bar and I'd put my hands underneath all of the surfaces and I'd touch, and anything I found that was sticky,
Yeah.
I would put a yellow sticky note on it. So if there's eggs, I hate fruit flies. I fucking hate fruit flies.
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
sticky notes on every sticky thing I'd find. And if you were the opener and you worked the closer from the night before, your job was to clean that bar before you did your side work and set up. And then you would call your buddy who closed and say, "Why did you do this to me?" And people started to police each other and they started to really try harder to keep the bar clean. And then that created more of a team feeling. And it also created this inter-reliance between each other. They became friends. And then nobody wanted to leave a dirty bar for the next
Great.
guy.
Great.
And then that would also translate to wanting to make the drinks right. And everyone understood that to be consistent because you might like Olivier's personality more than mine, or somebody might like talking to you, James, more than me, but all of our margaritas should taste exactly the same.
Right.
right.
Like that always should be the case. So you can sit in front of whoever you want, but whoever is there sitting, like whoever's making that drink, the bar should be clean. It should be made the same way, and it should taste the same every time. And so trying to get that into people's heads so that it's not trying to take away, you're not diminishing your personality. When I left Cesar and I got to Thad and he put a jigger in my hands. I was like, well, I don't do this, man. I don't jigger, and I don't need to measure this. I can do it in my head, and then I just finally the jigger. It's almost the jigger will set you free.
Right.
When you're bartending, because you don't actually have to think that hard.
Right.
You just have to measure. I mean, sure, there's something artful about free pouring drinks, but I actually really have now come to really love them. Unless I'm hanging out here and we're at my house on the porch, I'm just going to whip up a margarita. I'm always going to pull out the jigger.
Well, the
Right.
thing is also, Scott, in the old days, we use kind of, like we were talking about that, James, we use cheaper alcohol. So it was not a big deal if you go a little bit over. But now, when we use a really good alcohol to make cocktails, every half ounce makes a huge difference in the price, right?
Oh man, huge difference.
Right.
Well,
So,
and I agree. It's about consistency, because if you go into a bar and it's very funny too, because I've had so many people, they say, I want a Manhattan, but can you have Bill make it? Because he
yeah,
knows how I
right,
like
right,
it.
right. I know.
And I would go to Bill. I'd say, Bill, table 20 wants you to make their Manhattan because you do it so special, Bill. And he goes, I just make them a Manhattan. And it's the same Manhattan I mean, if I had just gone back there and made them a Manhattan and served it, they never would have known the difference, because
Yeah.
But you
he
know,
just
James,
made
what's cool? That's cool that they could ask the bartender. This is awesome. That is incredible that actually
Yeah.
people can ask something and it's done and we say yes. That's what people want. I'm sure they don't care like if Scott makes it or James, but
Well,
that
occasionally
power,
there'd be a reason for it, because somebody likes their
whatever.
margarita a little sweeter, and Bill
Sure.
knows how they like it. So I, sometimes I understand, but a
Exactly.
lot of times they were talking about a martini, and Bill would just say, I just make them the same martini I make
See,
everybody, but because Bill made it, it was special. And
I never minded that. I never minded. I thought that was
No,
cool that people
I never
travel
argued with
all.
anybody. I'd say,
No, no,
oh
I know,
yeah,
I know.
Bill's the
But I
best.
think
Yeah.
it's a good thing that people can go to a bar and have their favorite bartender. That's so rare. I mean, where do you see that?
I
Yeah.
mean, having the favorite I get it. You should. I have my favorites for sure.
Right.
But everybody still makes it taste. They should make the drink taste the same.
No,
Right.
I understand.
And that
That's the
goes
goal
back
of.
to our low turnover too. I mean, the fact that you could come in there over a period of 10 years and you could still go to the same bartender, that there's not a lot of places that can say that these
Jimbo, we
days.
need to end that podcast.
Yeah, we're out of time,
Unfortunately,
Scott.
people.
Scott, thank you
So
so
Scott,
much
thanks,
for
man.
being
Yeah,
on the
good to see you
show.
again. Good to see you again,
Yeah,
buddy.
thank you, guys. So much
We
fun
should.
to.
I'll keep in touch with you about the 21st of October. That
Yeah,
sounds like
if you
a real.
wanna, Scott, if you wanna do a little announcement a few weeks before,
Yeah, we'd love to
Yeah,
have you back on again. That
let's
that
make
I'd love
sure
pink
to.
that
let's make
pink
sure the
glow
cake works.
around you, Scott, is so attractive that
Yeah,
It is my favorite color. So,
yeah,
I don't know if you guys remember
yeah.
when
We
I
need, we need to
came.
solve that technical issue first.
Yeah,
All right.
I'll figure. All right.
well, that's
Thanks,
all the
Thank
guys.
time we
you,
have. Thanks
Scott.
for joining us. Thank you to Scott Baird.
Bye,
Thanks
guys.
for everybody that joined us. Thanks for everybody that was putting the comments down there. I think that was mostly Kenny. So we'll see you next
Great.
week. We